I should probably change. That's better. Welcome to week 12 of my CodeCrew Code School journey. In this week's video, I'm going to be talking about the material that we covered this week, a special guest that we had on Wednesday, and a little portfolio update. So we're just going to jump right into it. This week, we pretty much wrapped up the back-end portion of MERN. So if you remember from my last video, I talked a little bit about MERN, which is Mongoose, Express, React, and Node. And Mongoose, Express, and Node are all the back-end components of MERN. We've been doing it for about 2 weeks now, and this week we pretty much just wrapped up, everything that we learned. We did a lot of review, and we even did a small half-day project that was a full back-end project, no front-end, basically, because we were given images of like the working site, so kind of like a mock-up, and we were given all of the like HTML template pages. So all we had to do was create a functioning backend. I really liked this project because even though we're preparing to be full stack developers, more likely than not we'll be front end or back end unless we're at a smaller company. And so I thought it was really nice to get a fully back end experience, I think. So after the first 4 days of the week, we were wrapping up the back end of MERN. We moved into the front end of MERN, which is React. And I was really excited for React because I really enjoyed front end when we were doing like a simpler version of it that was just static pages. And I was excited to move into a more complex front end system. And that's basically what React is. So React is a JavaScript library for user interface, I think, or something like that. But it's basically writing HTML in JavaScript, or writing JavaScript that's rendered in HTML, or something like that. But it lets you create components so that you can design and write the script for really specific pieces of your website and then put all of that together. And it's like a plug and play situation, which I think is going to be really powerful for us really soon. But on Friday, we just did like a really basic review of React. But now that we know what React is, we can technically say that we fully understand two full stack systems. So we're confident in Django, we're confident in MERN, and we're one step closer to being very marketable full stack developers. So that's what we covered this week. And on Wednesday, we actually had a speaker come in for our Lunch and Learn. So now that the program is in its second phase, we have a lot more soft skills to kind of go over, and one of those is attending Lunch and Learns every Wednesday. So the program will bring in developers, students, potential employers, just people in the tech community, and they'll come speak to us about what it means to be a software developer in Memphis right now. And they answer questions and give us feedback and tell us about their life story and how they got where they are. And that's exactly what our speaker, Ted Patterson, who's a software developer, did on Wednesday. So one thing that Ted Patterson did talk about was Adobe XD, which is a program that I'd never heard about before, and it lets you create really useful mock-ups of websites. And that's actually what I used for my portfolio update this week. So I focused on my I focused on my projects page this week and sort of creating what Ted Patterson referred to as case studies. So going really in depth on a project, talking about the program you used, the timeline, the skills you learned, maybe challenges that you faced, anything like that. So that even if an employer only views one project, they can get a really good idea of how you work, and your motivation and your style and things like that. And I really liked that idea, and because I had like one project in my portfolio, I figured it was a good time to start implementing something like that. So for this week, I just focused on making a mock-up of that page using Adobe XD. So first, I'm going to show you what my project page looks like now, and it's just a list of my projects and an image which is clickable, a brief description, and a link that currently goes to the GitHub repository of that project, but ideally it would go to the actual project. So if it was a website, you could view it. If it was a game, you could play it, things like that. And it's just, grid layout listed down the page. And I want to, retain that initial piece so that it's easy to see all my projects at once. But I've also created the case study page that goes off of the reflections page. So if you click on the project itself, instead of immediately opening into the GitHub repository or into the project itself, it takes you to the case study where you can then immediately open the project or the GitHub repository. So that is one extra step. But in the case study, I've listed the brief description that would have been under it off to the side, along with the links to view it or access the GitHub. And I've also listed the date or the timeline, maybe the programs used, and a few other things could go in that portion, so that the first thing you see is the project and essential information, and then under that I would ideally put a more in-depth description of the project. So that's when you first load the page, and then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see more detailed information about the project. So maybe some more screenshots or progress shots or something like that, along with descriptions of what's happening in those images and things like that. And I actually, with Adobe XD, you can run like a little test or whatever, so that you can see the actual project and you can link things so that you can click it and it actually works as if it was a fully functioning HTML page. And I'll throw the video of that up. The quality is a little shaky, but I was able to run through my site. So I can go to the projects page, I can click on one project and then go to that project. I can navigate back to the projects page from a button at the top, and then I can use the arrows that I've used for my whole portfolio to navigate through all the projects on the site, and then again go back to the initial projects page. So I'm not entirely sure how I would actually build this using the static pages that I originally built my portfolio with, but it is really nice to have a mock-up that shows me exactly what I want to do and how I want it to function, and now I just have to figure out how to actually implement that, which hopefully is going to be next week. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys this week, but as always, I will keep you guys updated.